One. Hey guys, Daniel here. This is another video, and in this video, I'm joined by the writer, artist, creative team of hit new comic book series We Write Titans, which comes from Vault Comic. That's right, I am joined by Trace Dean and Sebastian Piriz. It's such an honor to sit with both of these gents. This is such a fantastic book. I'm sure most of you've picked it up from your local comic book store. But yeah, like I said, I got loads of blackmail on both of these creators, and I have their families in my basement. But yeah, absolutely, let's get right into it. Thank you both so much for coming on. But the first thing, let's get into it. Just a comic in general, Trace, talk about, how, for anyone watching who isn't aware, what is We Write Titans?
Thank you for that glowing introduction. I don't care for most of my family members, so you can just keep them where you have them. Yeah, We Write Titans is, we kind of pitched it as like Pacific Rim meets Shameless, UK or US version, either one. But yeah, it's ostensibly a story about a family that is in charge of piloting the mech that protects their city. What it really is like a story about how families fall apart and maybe come back together depending on the situation. Yeah, it's about how difficult it can be to sort of bear the weight of expectations and of legacy. And but don't worry, there's still there's big kaiju. So yeah, that's the pitch.
Yeah, that's what every comic lacks, in my opinion. Giant kaiju robots fighting. I think it just makes every comic better. Like, yeah, Watchmen. Actually, I can't even say that about Watchmen. There was a giant octopus in that. Yeah,
Kaiju, yeah.
Kaijus make everything better. But yeah, so how did this concept come about? And then how, Sebastian, how did you get involved in this project? Did Trace pitch it to you, or?
It was like 3-4 years ago. I'm not sure. I think he posted somewhere that he was looking for an artist, and I replied that to different editorials. We almost had the okay to publish it somewhere, and then stuff happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I think he posted an ad looking for artists. But it's his story. It's his baby. I'm here for the ride.
I appreciate him putting it that way, but also like, yeah, I posted a tweet that was like, I'm looking for an artist for like, a mecha book. And I don't want Sebastian to sell himself short, because it was, I posted a few, if I'm remembering correctly, a few open calls for just like people who were into drawing, mecha and kaiju and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was largely in the interest, the follow-up ones of having some options to pitch to publishers. And sometimes an editor will say like, oh, I'd love 4 or 5 artists that you'd like to see on the book. But Sebastian responded to the first one, and like pretty much from the jump, I saw his work, and it kind of unlocked what I wanted the book to look like, because I really didn't have a solid idea of that. I knew what aesthetic influences I wanted the artist to incorporate into the design of the world, but I didn't have, I didn't have somebody in mind where I could be like, oh, I want someone who draws like, I don't know, like Frank Quitely or anything. I didn't have a point of reference. As soon as I found Sebastian's work, I knew that's what I wanted it to look like. And as he said, like there were points where it was at a different publisher, and points where I was, talking to editors that were like, oh, I'd love to see a few other options for this. And I would sort of humor them and put forth other names. Very talented names, no disrespect, but like Sebastian has really been with the book since it started to become a real thing, which is why I take slight umbrage with him saying it's all Trace, it's his baby. I'm not gonna lie, I wrote the hell out of it. Not gonna sell myself short there, but like Sebastian is like, I don't think the book would have come together without Sebastian.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that like you both just worked together so perfectly on this book. But yeah, like, Sebastian, like we just brought this up. This is something I think you excel at, drawing both Titans and these, these giant robots and fighting kaijus. And so is this kind of, your artistic responsibility? Like, is this something that you're good at drawing? Do you feel like drawing these big robots, and something that you feel comfortable drawing?
Yes, I love it. I love drawing monsters. I love drawing big robots. I actually made a 3D model of it to make it easier, so it is consistent from page to page, because it is very difficult otherwise, at least for me. But I have a lot of fun doing that. But then you go to the actual story, because in issue 1 it's like 4 pages of robots, and the rest is people talking. it was a challenge, but the script, I love so much the script. I like so much what's happening that I'm trying to do my best there, because I wrote kind of with the models, and I have a lot of fun making them fight, making them those huge fists and all that. And then the shop is doing the other part good, because that has to work. I think that better than the fight for this story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And so, Trace, another thing I want to touch on is that not only do we get to see, these kaijus fighting each other and these titans, beating the crap out of these kaijus, but there's also this, of course, this big family dynamic. Like in the back, we see kaiju hits hard, family hits harder. So
Yes.
what's it like? Was it important for you as a writer, to kind of, not only make it a fun action-packed story, but give it an emotional heart and make these characters, who are these family members, and just make it all kind of feel intertwined? Was that important to you while working on this book?
Yeah, I would actually honestly say it is. It's more of a priority for me than the action stuff, because the way I see it, or at least the way I write, and anybody who is watching this who writes comics or wants to make comics is free to disagree or say that I'm wrong for feeling this way, but like, there's nothing I can write in terms of an action scene that Sebastian couldn't probably make up on the fly better. Which isn't to say that I have left it all up to him. Like, I've done my best to sort of incorporate, fight beats and really make those pages pop as much as I can. But like, having Sebastian on the book means I don't have to work too hard at that. What draws me to any story, and the reason I felt so strongly about this one for so long, like Sebastian said, I mean, this has been in the works for like 3, almost 4 years at this point, is the emotional dynamic. And to me, at least, I'm glad it ended up being a book about mecha and kaiju. But as it started out, I just knew I wanted to tell a story about this sort of family drama. Almost feels like it kind of undersells it. It's obviously, I think anybody who reads the first issue can tell that it's very like personal and draws from a lot of personal experiences. But like, I knew I wanted to tell a story about that. I think even I was thinking about this as I was coming home to do the interview. I think the earliest draft of this in like one of my notebooks was like a superhero family, but I am not super interested in incorporating superhero archetypes into a story like this, because I feel like it's very easy to fall into like, oh, well, that's the Superman analog, that's the Batman analog and stuff. And that's just not very interesting to me. Whereas you can have a lot of fun and do something more original with, kaiju. Plus, I have a lot of love for that genre. Like, mecha and kaiju, and some of my earliest like self-published comics had, fell into that genre. So I guess to answer your original question, I apologize for rambling, but like the
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I got started. The emotional aspect of the book was actually like what drew me to it more than anything. And it's what, in writing these scripts, the sections of script that I am nervous about getting notes on, or like really want to make sure that stick, aren't the mecha punches the kaiju, or like the Defender Nexus does a cool thing. It's like, does this human moment ring true? And so far, I think we've done a decent job of that. I don't want to, pat ourselves on the back too hard. But also, I mean, I think Sebastian, again, sells himself short a little bit, because like, I think he draws, mecha kaiju fights better than pretty much anybody, but like a lot of artists can draw that. Not every artist could sell the like emotional beats, the human moments. And I think he does that just as well as he does the action sequences. And if I've provided him with the challenge that he appreciates, I'm happy to do that. But like he really came through on that. And I think that if that doesn't work artistically, if that doesn't come through in the art, the book doesn't work as well as it does.
Yeah, definitely. And so, Sebastian, is it important for you to kind of, add this emotional weight to these specific moments? Because it's one thing drawing robots fighting, but it's another thing when you have these, these characters, who are sharing emotions and just chatting. So it's important for you to kind of get that right as an artist.
Yeah, it's most important in the book. The most important thing in the book. Sorry about the English. Because you start the first book with this huge fight, and then you have to get a good pacing for the rest of the book. You know, you
Yeah.
have to go to those moments to bring the page to those moments, like when kid's girlfriend realizes that they've been talking to their mother. I think there's a few pages in issue 2 where the brothers talk, the siblings talk, and it is very important. It's the most important thing to bring the reader to those moments and make it right and make them act right. I don't know. It is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just nailed it in the book. It was a really good. There's really good stuff in it. But yeah, you know, Trace, we never even touched about how did this concept come about? How did you first come up with it? You know, were you just lounging around and said, okay, it has to be Titans and Kaijus fighting each other? You know, how did this concept come to you?
I mean, I remember it very vividly. I came up with the concept for the book and like the sort of vague outline of it on it was 2018 August. I had been out with 2 of my really good friends in Manhattan, and I was taking the Long Island Railroad back home. It was pretty late, and I was pretty creatively frustrated with comics at the time. I just sort of like, I'd pitched a lot of stuff and none of it was really working. I didn't really know, I didn't know if I would be able to keep doing it, because it is, if you're doing it as a hobby, it can be an expensive one as a writer. And I just knew I had been dealing with a lot lately. My parents had split up. I have a pretty complicated relationship with my sister, which you could probably tell from all 24 pages of the first issue of Rewrite Titans. Yeah, I knew I wanted to tell a story about that. And that is, it's like I said, that's where any comic I write, any story I write from here on out comes from that desire. I'm not someone who thinks in terms of, and there's nothing wrong with thinking this way, but I'm not someone who thinks in terms of like, oh, I'd love to figure out ways I can subvert genre, or I'd love to build out a world. And I know people who really geek on like creating like magic systems and like, how does magic work in this world? And that's not really my thing. My thing
You have
is
a map?
like,
Do you just have a We Write Titans map?
dude, we don't. What's wild is we don't. I will say that like the most helpful thing, I'm going to actually backpedal for a second, because like I said, that's not how I think. Yeah. But I think Sebastian does to an extent, because him making 3D Titan was so helpful.
I totally think that way. I'm working on a couple of books where I was the one with the original idea, and I am the guy that makes a map and makes a conceptual map of everything, and has I am the opposite. Maybe especially with the design of the robot and all those things. It's not needed for this story. It's not this story. The nuclear reactor of the robot is, so it works this way.
Yeah, but you thinking that way has helped a ton too, because even in this isn't even like a part of the story, but if you look at the I don't have the book in front of me. Like if you look at the credits page, like the 3D model of the, I think it's like, yeah, like that like layout of the Titan is just like something Sebastian had like ready for us. And yeah, it was, and he was like, you can use it as a cover, or it can just be like a point of reference. And like, sure enough, we used it, but also like, he really does have, there was a point in designing the robot where we were trying to figure out like what its power set was and like what weapons it had. And like, you know, I think with words, I'm a writer. So like, I wasn't thinking about how you would go about incorporating them into the design, but like, if you pull up Sebastian's model of the Nexus, I'm sure he can point to you like how everything works and like where the thrusters come from and stuff. And that's like, I don't have a frame of reference for how to think that way, which is why it's been so exciting to work with him, and why I think like, if that's my biggest deficit as a writer, like he has covered for me in that way that, you know, collaboration.
I asked him if the pilot was hot because he was close to the reactor of the robot.
That.
I don't really care. I mean, I'm going for something else. And he's right. I am kind of obsessive in that. And I know where is the reactor of the robot, but it is there in a place.
But it's so cool that you do though, and like I said, I don't think that way, and I think what helps though too is like I remember when you asked like would he be close to the reactor and feeling the heat from it, and I was like no, or I don't know about that. I do know that piloting this robot should be a really physical task, and so he should be physically fatigued and like sweating in the opening scene, and if Sebastian knows where the reactor is, yeah, exactly. Like if Sebastian knows where the reactor is, then he knows how much heat he'd be feeling from that in addition to the physical motion of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the amount of work that goes into this. But Sebastian, is it hard for you to draw all these intricate designs on these robots, or is it something that you just love to do?
No, there's 3 stages to this answer. I love to, but I don't have the time to do it. Right. Yeah. So I go for the 3D model that it took me 1 or 2 days to do it in SketchUp, and it's not a rigged model. I have to move part by part to put it as a model for to draw on top of it, and then I go to the drawing at the end. So I love to do it, but it's for a monthly comic, the 3D model. And from that, I have the faces. I have the model ready, but it's like spaceships and all those things. I love to have the time to spend, I don't know, 4 days drawing the big robot, but you just can't in so I love doing the model. It's like say the same. I spend a lot of time doing the model because I enjoy that, and then the pages come easier. Then you have all the narrative part. You have to know where to put them, where to put the camera. That's a whole lot of work. But the technical part of the robot is solved by the 3D model.
Oh yeah, brilliant. And so, I'm very professional here on the channel. So Trace, let me ask you this. How fun is it? How fun is it to write for these sick ass giant robots that are just punching kaijus? How fun is it?
Yeah. I don't want to undersell how much fun that is. I coordinate a lot of the action for that based on like I'm a really long time fan of like martial arts and pro wrestling, and it's really fun to just sort of play with that at the largest scale possible. And at the same time, like I will say that one of the things that I like write the least in the book, which is to say I provide like the least description, is the kaiju. Because that's something that I am much more content to just like let Sebastian do whatever he wants. And if one of them needs to have a specific feat, like one of them needs to have, I don't know, like be on 4 legs or be able to jump really high or something, I'll include that. But yeah, it's a blast to like write in what's necessary from those sequences and then see what Sebastian does with it. That's such a blast. That's always like Christmas morning when the like thumbnails and stuff come in. I will backtrack for a second because again, Sebastian making that 3D model, I think another huge pro of it that I don't know if we mentioned is that him having that 3D model on hand, I believe everybody who did a variant cover that featured the Defender Nexus could use it as reference, which is so cool to like, again, as someone who doesn't draw, like that's really cool to me. I never would have thought, but like, not only is that really helpful for him to, expedite the process of drawing this and make sure that there's consistency, but also we can send the model to, Nathaniel Gooden did a cover for us. And I'm sure he had the model on hand to make sure that his variant cover matched the Titan, which I think is so.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's brilliant there. And like cover wise, I know Josh Hickson did. I recently had him on the channel. And just that specific there. It's okay. Don't even worry about it. No, it's fine. But yeah, so let me ask you this, Sebastian. I know you also got to do covers on this series. Is it a whole different thing, taking on covers as opposed to doing it in tiers? Because, you kind of want to have this idea that you can do.
Yes, first I did the colors on the covers. I paint a lot of my work. In this book, the color is done by D. Kunif.
He's going to be on the channel this Wednesday, so it's a We Ride Titans week for me. Anyway.
Yeah. He's so good. He's so good, and I learned so much from seeing how he works on my inks. But the covers, I did the colors, so
Yeah.
I leave a lot to solving in you know, all the effects, that stuff. No, I have fun with the covers. I send like 5, 6 options for each cover. Actually, I sent last week the cover for issue 5 that I sent the idea for issue 1. And,
Yeah.
and it survived all the issues, and I finally did for issue 5 with a little change by Tres. It's what I like to do. It's what I'm doing comics for, to draw these huge images, cool stuff. I don't know.
And you're
fun.
very good at it. Yeah. So Trace, let me
Thank
ask you
you.
this. You know, how many issues do you have planned out for We Write Titans? Is there a plan, or are you just kind of taking it as far as you can? You know, what's your plan for this?
So We Write Titans is a limited series. It's going to
Yeah?
wrap up 5. A couple of people have asked if there are like plans for a sequel, and I don't want to say that I would never write more. I will say that like this is a finite story. I have not planned out further arcs as of right now. I'm really big on, and this is maybe counterintuitive to, you know, long form comic book storytelling, but I like things that have an ending. I like stories that wrap up, and I don't start writing something even like outlining something for like a pitch packet until I know how it ends. And yeah, this has a very definitive ending that concludes every aspect of this story that I feel the need to tell right now. That is not to say that if Vault says, here's a big bag of money, will you tell more robot stories, that we will not do more. I will, if that happens, I sure will come up with some new stories.
What if the real Titan was us as the viewer the whole time?
Yeah,
Man, that could
the
be
Titan
something.
made along the way.
It was our human greed that was the real robot and Kaiju at the end.
Yeah. So yeah, right now it wraps up with issue 5. I'm working on the script right now. I'm very happy with how we've decided to end the story. And yeah, I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely sure they will. If it's just as good as issue 1, they definitely will. But you know, Sebastian, are you on what are you currently drawing right now? Is it issue 3 or 4?
Issue 3. I started issue 3 a couple of days ago.
Yeah, and so what's your process for beginning a new script? Do you look at it first and then, you know, do some layouts, or just what's your approach to, you know, drawing a new script?
I may read it the moment I get it, maybe not completely, or maybe I skim on it, and then I do the very, very loose layouts. I still don't understand how people gets what I'm trying to put on the page. And I upload those layouts many times with descriptions or notes. I propose a lot of changes because I'm not worried to be told, no, I like it the original way. But I think that's better, because maybe between the writer and the artist, we get to something, I don't know, better in the end. So I try to knowing or anything, but I try to do the best that I can. And then from the notes of the writer or the editor, I go to the pages.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And so, Trace, did you write the script with Sebastian in mind as the artist?
Yeah. By the time I started the script, I didn't write the script until we were like for sure doing the book with Vault.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think that's pretty normal. I know there are some publishers that, as part of the pitch packet, will ask you to turn in like issue 1. I've done that before, and if it doesn't work out, cool, you have a first issue written for when it does get picked up, I guess. Fingers crossed. But no, I didn't start writing the script for We Ride Titans until we were for sure picked up and Sebastian was on board.
Yeah, nice, absolutely. And so, do you think that, you know, after writing, because right now you're doing issue 5, so do you think now you know, and obviously you have seen Sebastian's art and stuff like that, do you know what his responsibilities are as a storyteller? You're like, okay, so now you're writing more for him as opposed to maybe you were for issue 1, or is it kind of like throughout you were all writing because you knew Sebastian would be your artist?
I'd say it's more the former. Like because we'd never worked together before. Even though by the time I started writing issue 1, we've been talking about doing this, and like sort of on the hook to do it at some point somewhere for a few years. So we were definitely ready, but I do feel going into issue 5 and even going into issue 4, both of which are, I would say like issue 4 somewhat and issue 5 especially like significantly more action heavy. I know how he lays out pages. I know he's really good with dynamic layouts.
Yeah.
So I know even stuff like how to arrange a panel count or something. Like I think he does like dynamic, really sort of like oh, what's the word I'm looking for? He isn't afraid to like, you know, tilt the page or like tilt the angle of the panel.
Yeah, for the action scenes.
Yeah, yeah, and in a way that I feel works better when there's only 3 or 4 panels as opposed to, you know, 5 or 6 or even 7. So knowing that going into these really action heavy, yeah, like that, exactly. Going into these really action heavy issues, I know that, and I know that in that sense, less is more, which is to say that you could do a page where there's, you know, 9 beats of action and, you know, they're just like duking it out and stuff, or you can just make like 1 or 2 really dynamic beats and Sebastian will sell them and make them look really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just put it perfectly there. But Sebastian, here's like just an artist question. We've been talking a lot about drawing robots and then drawing, you know, the family emotional beats. What's your favorite thing you've gotten to draw in We Write Titans? Is it the giant robot or?
I love drawing monsters because that's I have the robot, so I place it, I put it, but I love drawing monsters. I love figuring out layouts that add to the story. Like when the robot is face down, the character will be physically in the same orientation. And I have a lot of fun trying to come up with those layouts. And I wouldn't call it fun, but I feel very good when an emotional moment works. Like, well, I keep talking about issue 2, this in the that I think that there are some panels that when you finish them, you feel good because the acting, it works. It's not like I have a lot of fun doing it, but the satisfaction in the end compensates.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely see that there. But so Trace, at the start, we were touching on how a lot of this is based on, you know, things that happened in your life. And obviously, I think this story, it does seem very personal to you in some sense. But, you know, I recently got to chat with Grant Morrison. And after chatting, it changed the way, of course, one would
Sorry, what?
I got to chat with Grant Morrison. Yeah, I was so lucky there.
I'm about to hijack this interview and just talk to you about that.
No, I completely looked out. Oh, it was such an honor. I bring it up almost way too much. I'm at the dentist. I'm like, oh yeah. So you
never shut up about that. I would talk to Grant Morrison every day of my life. I'd introduce myself, be like, "Hi, I'm Daniel Fee. I've interviewed Grant Morrison."
I will do the same. I will go to the street and say, "Do you know who Grant Morrison is? Because you must know who Grant Morrison is." I talk with him.
Did that.
We're practically best friends. I mean, that's fair to say.
I didn't have any friends at the beginning of the interview. I'm starting to think you might have undersold your personal relationship with Grant Morrison.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been so lucky in this channel to get to talk to brilliant creators. I mean, like just you guys here as well. But, you know, so much of their stories are so personal to them. And it's kind of just changed the way I look at everything. So, you know, is We Write Titans something that's very personal to you? Because there are these, I can't imagine you did fight any kaijus, but I may be surprised. But there is that kind of family dynamic there. So is a lot of it personal to you, Trace? Just story-wise?
Yeah, very much so. And it's like I said, I have found broadly that like, I am not in a place right now as a writer where if I am doing a creator-owned comic, like one that is, you know, an idea that I came up with on my own, I'm not really interested in doing something that isn't in some way deeply personal. And it's like, it's, you know, like I said, like it is not a value judgment on people who are drawn to writing for world building or playing with, you know, tropes or subverting genre, or even just like, you know, I don't know, finding a cool way to tell the story of the hero's journey. I am personally like, it's I would rather do one comic like We Ride Titans every couple of years that is deeply, deeply, deeply personal, and really for an audience of one, that being me, than 6 creator-owned books every year that don't have such significant pieces of myself in them.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, that's not any sort of like value judgment on the way other people approach writing. For me, it's just like, I don't know why. I want to say on one hand, like, I don't want to do it any other way, but the other thing is that I really don't know how to do it any other way. Like, that's just how I approach writing. And for that, you may see like fewer creator-owned books from me than maybe more prolific creators, but I'll always be happier with, waiting it out. And I've mentioned this in a couple interviews about this book, but like, it's my creator-owned debut, and I knew within a couple days of outlining it on the Long Island Railroad, I was like, I would like for this to be my debut. I don't really feel like pitching a bunch of stories that I don't feel as strongly about in the interest of getting one out sooner. I was really with We Ride Titans, like, I will wait as long as it takes to make this, my debut, which I did. It took like almost 4 years, but it was worth it. Like, people seem to like it, and yeah. And I mean, the other thing, like I said, I kind of alluded to it, but like, I'm glad people are enjoying this book. I didn't really write it for anybody other than me. Partially because I love Kaiju and Mecha, and I wanted to work with Sebastian, which that's for me. But also because, as I said, it's like deeply personal. It's something I needed to get out. And I've always felt the best way to make a story resonate with an audience is to not write to an audience. It's to write to an audience of one, that being yourself. People tend to respond to stuff that is deeply idiosyncratic and personal. And I don't know, it remains to be seen if that ends up being the case with We Ride Titans, but if people hate it by the time it wraps up, I'll still be pretty happy with it.
Yeah, and you absolutely should be. And I think like the characters, of course, there is that, that sibling dynamic, which we do see in how, just what would you be willing to do for family? And I love those character designs. So Sebastian, did you do the character designs for these characters, or was this a collaboration between you and Trace? Or
I did, but Trace sent me a Pinterest board with the reference for the characters and how they look, how they are dressing. Yeah, I did the designs, but it's all Trace. It's all on him.
Oh, nice.
It's about 80% Sebastian, 20% me, to be fair.
Yeah, okay, but I had here what I didn't have for the Titans, for how the Titan worked, I had for the characters. He wanted them to look this way, and that's perfect.
I don't think detail over the book got, and I'm not trying to be funny, I don't think I made Sebastian redraw anything as much as Kit's hair, which I really wanted to look like a certain way. But other than that, like I remember that took like a few days. I'm so sorry. Yeah, once we, as with most things in the book, once we got on the same page, I pretty much didn't have notes. Yeah. There were versions where it was like higher and versions where it was shorter, and I was like, I want this to look a very specific way.
You're just you're like, listen, do it again. Okay, we're almost there. I can feel it. I imagine that's basically how it was. You just had him at gunpoint. I said, we'll do it one more time. We'll call it a day. Come on. Yeah,
I had her actually get her right after she wakes up. And he went, no, let her, like she was in the previous page, like when I woke up.
Yeah,
that's the only note he gave me.
Sebastian, I'd say your dream book is just a book of just full characters with no hair, just all bald characters. That's your next comic.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. But yeah,
that him saying that though, that did, I don't even know if I realized this in the minute, but like Kit, you know, the first time we meet her, she's just waking up and she has bedhead. And I think I realized in the moment, I was like, this is a character who should always kind of have bedhead, like,
Yeah.
because she's messy and yeah, shit like that. Yeah, I apologize, I interrupted.
No, absolutely, it's not from adult. But yeah, that's a really interesting point. And like one thing I realized we haven't even touched on is that this was, of course, published by Vault. We've been putting out some brilliant stuff recently. But you know, Trace, how did this collaboration come about? What blackmail did you get on, you know, the guys who work at Vault?
I wouldn't call it blackmail. When Adrian and I first started following each other on Twitter, Adrian and I bonded a bit over the fact that we both do like combat sports and Muay Thai and stuff. And
were you trying to beat him up if he didn't, you know, publish your book?
No, at the time I was working at a boxing goods store, and I had posted something on Twitter that was like, I got an employee discount. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in here. If you need anything, hit me up. And he DM'd me. He was like, I'll let you know. And he never took me up on it. But so it wasn't blackmail. It was more like bribery. I was like, if I ever need a favor, I can always say, hey, you want those super rare gloves? Because I can get you those super rare gloves. But yeah, no, I mean, working with Adrian, I actually maybe haven't talked enough about how helpful it's been to the book. Adrian does something that I think is really valuable in an editor, or at least he did with this book. I'm sure he does it with all the others.
Yeah.
You know, Vault does a ton of good stuff.
I'm sure he just likes your one and he just doesn't read the rest.
I'm the favorite. I'm the favorite writer. The thing with Adrian is I guess the way to put it would be he meets a story on its own terms. So he did not see this pitch and say, well, what we really need to do is expand the lore or build out the world more or make it more action heavy. He saw what I was trying to do as a writer with the book, which is to say, tell this story about like family and how messy it can be. And he understood that Kaiju and Mecha, as fun as they are to read and to make stories about, are ultimately set dressing. That the heart of the story was this family dynamic. And that's what he has focused on the most from every stage of the book. He has talked, it's just very refreshing because I ultimately, in the process of making it with him, have not had to worry about making the story anything I didn't feel it needed to be. Adrian's notes have been about improving the heart of the story and and that's not to understand. He's given some notes on action sequences that have been really helpful and drew from the fact that we both, as I said, have experience with like Muay Thai and boxing. And that's a really good point of reference because I understand that and I can convey that to the script better. But yeah, and Vault as a publisher is obviously like so incredibly exciting right now. And I think part of the reason is because he has not only such a good eye for the right books for that publisher, but again, that he meets them on their terms. He does not try to make a book something it's not already trying to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've just been talking about a lot of people. I think Adrian's a brilliant person, but so we've been talking a lot about people who just work off in general. And like, so when I started this, I may have said creative team. It's part of the creative team. It's the writer and artist, but of course, allow me to, you know, give a shout out to D. Cuniff and Jim Campbell, the colors and letter. This book could not have been possible with them, and they're both so good. And like D. Cuniff, a fellow Irishman, of course, nice to see him just doing everything. I assume he had blackmail on you guys as well, but it's the good blackmail. We'll kind of allow it. And then Jim Campbell is a brilliant letterer. But yeah, everyone should go check them out as well. I'm just going to plug them there. The book would absolutely not be possible without them. So yeah, everyone.
He adds so much to the sentimental part, to the how each scene has its own color, and it works so. Yeah. And the lettering is perfect. You know what they say about the lettering. It has to be invisible. It's not invisible. You notice so small details here and there, but it works. It flows.
Yeah.
There's a detail Jim incorporated into the lettering that I did not know what he would do with it, and it's going to show up I think a few times throughout the book. But there have been moments where I want to indicate that someone is maybe like saying something under their breath or like whispering it, and I think I don't want to say any bad words on your YouTube channel, but I don't
care anymore. I've honestly just stopped caring. Cool. I make no.
I'm just quoting the book. There's a moment where I wanted Kit to mutter, like, "What the fuck?" under her breath, like not to anybody in particular, just to herself. And I just indicated to him, like, "Hey, it should read like she's sort of whispering this." And I figured what he would do was just make the lettering a lot smaller, and instead he made it like transparent, which was so brilliant. Yeah, right there.
Nice.
Yeah, he's so good. And Sebastian said it so well. Like, it's something that it they say it should be invisible, but like when it's really good, sometimes it's not, and in a good way, you kind of notice like, oh, hey, they really crushed that. Yeah.
Yeah, but the creative team behind this is just so good. And yeah, you can swear if you want. These videos don't make any money. I've just stopped caring anymore. I'm so desensitized to the world of comics. I'm basically the Rorschach of YouTube comic books, which is very fair. I'm so faded.
Sorry to hear that.
There you go. Life's got me down. No, I'm only messing. Believe it or not, like I said, once you interview Grant Morrison, nothing can go wrong. There you go.
I'm just into being the Rorschach of comic book interviewing. You should conduct every interview just eating beans straight out of a can with a spoon.
Now I can have a reason for eating beans. Apparently it's rude or something. Oh, no one understands. It's who I am. If I want to eat beans, every man, woman, and child should be allowed to eat beans. That's
raw temperature canned beans.
Yeah, so that's definitely not what I thought I'd say in this interview. But yeah, if you want to eat beans, go for it. You do you.
I'm not the one claiming to be Rorschach, bud. Like,
yeah, pretending. There ain't no pretending here, buddy. I am Rorschach. Beforehand, I was upstairs on my bedroom window in like a brown trench coat with the mask on. Apparently, I'm freaking out the neighbors or something, which is
neighbors.
They just don't understand. They won't be laughing when I go Dr. Manhattan on them. Then we'll see. Actually, if I ran outside dressed as Dr. Manhattan, that'd be a bit different. You should all be grateful I decided to be the Rorschach of YouTube comics and not the Dr. Manhattan. I'm just wearing this black tongue underneath as I'm doing this. So yeah, we should all be very, very grateful I decided to be Rorschach.
You could be wearing actually, because who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, I'm definitely. No one has to find out today. I think that'll be the best way to leave it. But no, absolutely. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you, gents. Before we wrap up, one of my last questions is, Sebastian, let's start with you. What is it like to hold We Write Titans in your hands?
Oh, it's beautiful. I wasn't home when it arrived. I was a few days off. I arrived to the comics. It is beautiful. Have your own work in your hands. It's people like that's. But I have one copy here in my desk. It's not like I didn't take it for the interview. I have it in my desk, so I watch it. I check it time and time again to see what can I do better.
Yeah,
the color. I love it. It's the best feeling in the world.
Absolutely. And so, Trace, what's it like for you getting to hold this comic?
My experience with it was actually like even more special than I thought due to circumstances that I didn't anticipate. Which is to say that so I'm based in New York right now, and I came home to Richmond, Virginia for the holidays, and due to a series of largely pandemic-related reasons, I've actually been here for the last month, which I didn't originally plan on. I happened to have packed all of my laundry to do at my dad's place, so I kind of lucked out. I've just like had clothes, but as a result, because my return home keeps getting postponed, I am finally going back this week. I got to buy it. Pardon me again.
It's the beans coming back up, everyone. It's the beans. You were slagging me earlier for eating beans as Rorschach. Who's laughing now? It's me. I'm laughing. I told you it happened. Everyone eats beans.
Everybody does eat beans.
There you go. I wish I had friends, but I have beans.
I got to buy it from and sign copies at the comic shop that I not only grew up going to, but I worked there in college, which is Velocity Comics in Richmond, Virginia. And the added bonus to that is, like, I have had books released before, both in comics and in prose, but I've never really had the experience of going to an independently owned store of some kind and finding something that I wrote that is there and like I've never spoken to the owner before. Which is to say that it's a little different. It's very cool finding your work at like Barnes and Noble. But like Barnes and Noble is not an independently owned bookstore. So I went to a couple of comic shops in Richmond that had ordered this book and like didn't know me. And the little like self-deprecating voice in the back of your head when you see that, you know, your local comic shop that you've been going to for years ordered your book is a little bit like, they're just doing this to be nice. Like they're just doing this because they want to support, you know, their friend. And then I went to a different store and it was like, no, they just did this because there was interest in buying it. So yeah, holding it was pretty unreal. And as Sebastian said, I read it like 2 or 3 times. And the third time I started to hear that voice that was like, you could have done this, 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 and that better. And I was like, time to put it away forever. Never look at it again.
So you can't even look back on it now? Is it hard for you?
I will be. I think I really just at the time needed, I think I just needed a few days away from it. And I will say that I probably won't read the first issue again until we get the trade paperback out. That's what I'm most excited about at this point, is having the whole thing in like a nice collected edition. That's going to be like pretty unreal. Yeah,
I stole this from my local comic book store, so I'll steal the trade paperback as well, just for you.
You're going to steal from larger corporations.
Essentially, yeah, that's me. I am Rorschach. Now it all comes together. That's why the guards were, and they were like, wait, so someone's running down in a brown trench coat stealing a specific book. They didn't believe it. That's my master plan. And then,
what is your local comic shop, by the way?
Oh man, there's a few at Dublin City Comics, Big Bang Comics, Forbidden Planet, and Subway Comics. All the ones there.
I meant to go to, I think. I was in Dublin a couple of years ago and I didn't get to go to the comic shop, but I meant to.
No way.
It was incredible.
I actually got this one in Forbidden Planet Dublin. That was the last one I was in. That's why I picked it up. So good. And I know that I was in a few stores I saw all over social media. So yeah, there you go. Absolutely. But yeah, like, believe it or not, I didn't actually steal it. I gave away like two tins of beans for it, which is, I mean, you know, not my proudest decision, but listen, it's kind of worth it. That's why, all right, I'm about to do a very big compliment for you guys. Make sure you're sitting down. This comic is worth 2 tins of beans.
Put that on the trade paper.
That's a very
someone who interviewed Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Yeah, but absolutely, definitely a weird note to wrap up on. But guys, thank you so much for coming on. Before we finish up, Sebastian, are you on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere people can check you out?
I'm on Twitter. I don't remember my Sebastian Piriz. It's
your name.
And Facebook, I give it for family and that. I don't use it. Facebook and Instagram. It's like the meme of the kids in the pool. I have Twitter up there and the rest.
Absolutely. Any new comics you'd like to promote, or anything you'd like to promote, Sebastian?
I finished a couple of days ago the comic I was doing for heavy metal, Black Beacon, and can't talk about the other thing I'm doing because it wasn't announced for Comixology Originals.
Nice.
That's right now.
It's okay. I know I have blackmail on you, but I won't make you reveal it. Don't worry. I might give you some beans later on in exchange for the information, but that's that might be illegal. I don't know.
But you have in the shipment because from Ireland you said to Argentina, it's a bit far.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't want to pay the 1-day postage and then just for beans, like they're gonna stop me. It's gonna be this big hassle. They're gonna think I'm smuggling something. Yeah,
I don't think you can bring cans with food actually.
Yeah, and apparently having a criminal record doesn't help or something.
No, I'm sure it
shouldn't even count. It was just public urination one time. I think everyone has to do it one time and then it's okay. That's not how it works. We can all do it once.
You're not helping with the stereotype.
No, I can't get away. I can't get away with public urination. What world do we live in? But yeah, between public urination, beans, and whatever else we talked about, there you go. Trace, are you on Twitter, Facebook, social media?
I am, yeah. It's so my name is spelled Tres, and then it's just Trace writes stuff on pretty much every social media platform. I'm not a big Facebook person, so if you send me a friend request there, not only will I not accept it, I won't see it probably for like 6 months or whenever I log on again.
I tried to find you on Twitter the other day, and I couldn't find Trace. And I saw Massage Gun Kelly.
Massage Gun my current display name. I'm very proud of. I should have changed it the week the book came out to like "By We Write Titans," but I didn't. When you got that real estate lockdown, when you're the only massage gun Kelly on Twitter, you can't sacrifice that.
You gotta keep it. But yeah, absolutely. And so you're on Twitter. Any comments you'd like to talk about? I mean, obviously, We Write Titans.
We Read Titans, issue 2 will be out. I actually don't know off the top of my head. Whoops. I'll tweet it later or something. I don't know. I have Eternal Warrior, Scorched Earth coming out through Valiant later this year. I'm still in the process of writing it. I'm not sure what the release date is right now. And then also, if I may, check out Sebastian's book, Black Beacon. Check out Lunar Room, which is also check out Ryan Cady is doing a a Batman team up story. And I forget if there's too many Batman books. Secret Files, one of those. Is there anybody else? Read everything Vita, Ayala, and Teenie Howard, and Denny Lore, and all of them. Read stuff my friends write. I'm not great, but like that's good. Yeah, do all of those. If I forgot anybody.
Do not sell yourself short. Everyone go pick up Rewrite Titans issue 1 from your local comic book store. And how about you shut up while I promote myself? You can all go check me out over on Twitter at SamboGizmo1 if you should be so kind. Please make sure to like and subscribe. I just want to take a minute to say, if you're ever in a time of doubt, just remember I interviewed Grant Morrison. But yeah, there you go. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. As always, if you do have the means, it would be much appreciated if you could donate to the National Deaf Children's Society. Link in that's in the description. But yeah, go pick up Rewrite Times issue 1. Issue 2 comes out. Issue 3, issue 4, issue 5. Then the trade paperback. All to get a full story. If Titans or Kaijus are your thing, this is the book for you. But yeah, never compromise your beans, even in the face of public urination. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, it would be much appreciated. But go check out these brilliant creators. And yeah, thank you, Jen, so much for watching. I will talk to you a little bit off air. But yeah, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on in the next video.